Hello.
Call the meeting to order. Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So our first order of business is approval of the minutes from June 6th. Did everybody read the minutes from June 6th?
Yes.
Any comments? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, reports for the school committee.
Oh, public comment?
Well, public comment. There's no one
Sorry.
here. But you're right, I should announce it.
I didn't have a report. I simply wanted to extend a thank you. With this being my last meeting, I can't believe that the year has gone by so fast already.
It's crazy.
But I very much appreciate your willingness to take the word of your new superintendent to hire another retired superintendent to come in for the year. And to be honest, I did worry about two egos being in the same office at the same time. But I found John incredibly wonderful to work with. He's been really good. So I appreciate your trust, and it's been a wonderful year. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll be back in the fall. For a
Yes,
little bit.
exactly.
For a little bit.
Yeah, but that's good news, because we love your expertise and
Thanks.
all your experience. John, do you
All right,
want to?
I'll come back to that, but couple things for me, and, one more substantive, just talk about budget in a second. I don't have the official announcements with me, and I don't know how widespread it is, but Mr. Donovan has made two announcements, or again, I don't know if it's official yet, hiring announcements in the last few days. First is for a social studies subjects curriculum supervisor. As you know, Sarah McGuire, who served in that position for several years, is going to be the middle school principal. But we are appointing social studies teacher Lou Alberti to that position. It was a really good search, thorough search, had some really good candidates, but at the end of the day, we all felt really great that Lou was the right person at the right time for this job. So we're really excited for him and for us, and I think he is too. And the second thing is, Mr. Donovan has offered the job of assistant principal, which Sarah McGuire is vacating, to another internal candidate, and he was kind of alluded to or mentioned last week during the CPAC presentation, but Todd Warmington, who has been with us for just a year, has spent team chair. He's a remarkable person, a great leader, and has a lot of building leadership experience at a lot of different types of schools, mostly private special ed schools, but he is going to be a great addition to Mr. Donovan's team. Jim will tell you more, but it's, again, everybody feels really good about those two hires, and we'll be making, I think, more formal announcements in the coming days, but I just want to let you know.
Great.
So I think it's great news. So we are really rounded out the administrative team. There's not a lot, I mean, I'm stating the obvious, but there's not a lot of turnover. And so we feel pretty good going into year two, or my year two. So that's that.
Great.
Second thing is, and this is not even necessarily a bigger topic, but it's not officially on the agenda, but I did talk to Kelly, and I know there was a question about just end of year balances in our budget. And I can talk about that number, that estimate, but also what should we do with it. There's a bunch of things I want to talk about. The first is that we have the luxury in schools of bottom line budgeting. And so we have 400 plus accounts, which is really kind of a tough thing to manage, but the law allows us to kind of bottom line that. So as long as we don't overspend that bottom line, we can make adjustments. The only reason I tell you that is we passed that, really just FYI, sort of where we are as of today. If you're interested, it's all the accounts, sum total by cost center. And if you look at it, it looks like, I compare it to like an EKG, like some some are up, some are down, some are up, some are down, but at the end of the day, we actually are really, really well positioned to end the year strong. As of today, and we still, bear in mind, we still have 17 days left in the fiscal year, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's actually a lot. There's a lot of moving parts still out there. There's a lot of purchase orders that may or may not get kind of fully executed, if you will. But we're looking at roughly somewhere in the neighborhood of $150,000 to $200,000. And in that, again, that's a bit of a range also, which I think is great. I mean, it's less than, it's a little more than 0.5% of our total budget. So the question is, you know, what do we do with it? There's really only a couple options. Well, there's 3 options. One, we could spend it all in the next 17 days, which I'm not necessarily recommending, although I think there's a ton of unfilled needs in the district. 2, the law allows us, as you all know, to prepay special ed tuitions. It's the only thing in the law really that you can kind of jump fiscal years for. So you can prepay, you know, special ed tuition. Or if we just let it lie, is that the proper word? We would effectively turn it back to the town, and that would end up in the special ed stabilization fund. So to put this in context, so in the FY19 budget that got approved at town meeting, the town funded $131,000 or so in the special education fund for use in FY19. Now, to reiterate, we've had this discussion, you know, dozens of times at this point. That money's already committed, so that 131 will come out next year, guaranteed. So there's value, you know, in boosting that fund, right? Building it up to hopefully be able to use one day as we intended to, which is to deal with unanticipated needs. And I'll say this, you know, I think there's value in both. I think there's value in prepay. I think there's value in giving money back to the sped stabilization. But just so you know, that the special ed budget is extremely volatile. Dave and I had a huge meeting yesterday. I'm losing track of the days. I guess 2 days ago. And our special budget, we already kind of have some holes for FY19 that we're going to have to fill. You know, significant actually in some cases. So I guess my point of saying that is we're managing it. You know, we're on top of it, but we're going to have to address it. And I do think there's value in putting money in a reserve fund in the event that we actually can't fill that gap within our own budget. So or prepay, right? But it kind of, at the end of the day, it has a similar impact. So I don't know if I'm making a wishy-washy recommendation or not, but I'm comfortable with both. But I'd love to hear your opinions.
Great, I have an opinion. I'd love you to do some of both. In other words, I'd love us to prepay some and also put some towards sped stabilization, because there is a time lag, as we know, on sped stabilization. We'll know a lot more about where we actually are next March when this sped stabilization I lost my train of thought. I like the idea of doing both. I don't think it's either or. I think we can certainly do both. I like the idea of trying to build up the sped stabilization fund, but I also like direct paying expenses that we know we're going to incur that are sped related. So to me, I'd say a mix of both.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because that's sort of our biggest unknown every year, budgeting. And we fight so hard for every dollar, so not knowing what the student population will be next year and if students are going to be out of district. And
we have some real challenges. Like,
yeah.
I'm just going to say this again as of today. I mean, so there's been significant shifts from March town meeting to today, which it's what it is, you know, and we'll have to wrestle with it. But so either way, it's going to help that situation. By what we do.
Well, I would say what you think would be the best use of the money as far as sped goes.
Yeah, I'd like to do a little of both.
Yeah.
I think there's value in that, just to build ourselves a little protection. What that percentage is, I don't know if it necessarily matters, but maybe it's
think-
1/3, 2/3, or something like that.
It might be helpful if you're in a position to understand or see forward, and that some of the money, if you were to put it all back in sped stabilization, you'd be taking out X, then maybe just a short memo saying, I've decided to split it this way and prepay this because we're pretty sure we're going to have to prepay, going to owe for X.
Yeah.
And then the balance we're not sure about, let's put that. And that maybe make it transparent upfront
Yeah.
what your expectations are. And
Sure.
That was gonna kind of be along the lines of my comment in terms of the transparency for the town. I think there was a CPAC meeting Monday night, and there was a discussion around the CPAC budget, and I know there's, I think, what we would now consider unexpected costs
Absolutely.
coming in. So, and the money you're putting back, we're not going to get to fiscal year 20, right? Because it has to be voted on next year's.
Well,
Isn't-
so no, my understanding, and I will have to clarify this, but I think if last year's any indication, what was left over at the end of the year,
Yeah,
in fact, went directly into sped stabilization. That,
What happens?
I
is
didn't,
At the
actually.
end of the year, it goes into free cash,
yeah,
and then they vote in the March town meeting
right.
to put it into
It's
stabilization.
It's
the whole year.
So it's a whole
That's why
cycle.
you said what my brain froze on. We can't access that money
Until
until after March.
20, yeah.
Right.
So that's,
well, I'm not disagreeing, but I do want to clarify that because I will say it's a little mixed message from what we got from the former finance director back. And matter of fact, we were at a meeting, Peter, you might have been there, where he said, oh, there's actually X in sped stabilization for use in the budget cycle because there was money we turned back. So that 131,
yeah. That
Right.
wasn't voted on until the March
That's right.
town
to
meeting.
put in and,
And
okay.
then,
Yeah.
Okay.
So we,
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm with you
the
on that.
400
Yeah.
was in from the year
Yeah,
Before,
prior.
yeah.
So
got it.
that,
So-
that's why I'm suggesting we don't put it all into the stabilization, because we might need it in the first 6 months of the
So
year.
that's what I was saying. I think in terms of explaining this appropriately to the town, because the pushback is going to be, you know, you have money left over. Are you guys really budgeting efficiently? Why do you have 200,000? So it should all go back in. You shouldn't be prepaying, otherwise you'd be budgeting better. And this, right now, we have unexpected expenses that we could prepay with this money, that if we put it all into the stabilization fund, we wouldn't be able to use it this next year when we actually need it because of that unexpected, right? So you're fulfilling the intent of the fund.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think in terms of framing that appropriately so that that argument is taken away from,
Yeah.
So I just wanted to dovetail on what you said and just emphasize the municipal budget outside of debt is approximately the same as the school budget, and they've generated a $2.7 million surplus on average for the last 5 years. So 200,000 in the context of 2.7
Yeah.
million cannot be
but-
budgeted more tightly.
I
That's-
totally agree with you,
Yeah.
but I think perceptions in the broader community,
Sure, yeah,
we have to address those.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, they're not hearing that.
right.
They've heard the other piece loud and
Right.
clear.
Yeah. I do want to say, I think
Totally
vocabulary is important. It is not surplus, it is unspent money.
Yeah.
Okay, we have been tracking this budget so carefully since, I don't know, I mean.
From July 1st.
Yeah, really tight. We could have easily, so I can list
Yeah.
$3 million today of unfilled needs. And so I will say,
So-
it's
so-
unspent.
So
Yeah.
from a layperson's perspective, I wouldn't say unspent, I would say unfilled needs,
Unfilled-
what you
right,
just
right,
said,
right.
in terms of, you know, we have a community campaign we have to start making, framing it appropriately, and I know, I mean, the last 3 or 4 years, the superintendent has put a spend freeze, I think, starting in like November or
Yes.
December every year, so that's how the school has been operating.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, we were fortunate not to have to do that this year, that's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, David, you have these numbers, I'm sure, but the end-of-year amounts in prior years have been, what, 3 times greater than
Yeah.
what you're
That much?
expecting?
It has.
Sure.
Well, I'll say this, though, we knew, I
think
will
that
say,
big.
there were other, I want to be very transparent about this, throughout the year, there were other, I'm using the word now I don't want to use, but there were other surpluses that we've
Sure.
actually spent down.
That's right.
In the course of the year, and matter of fact, when you look at this, you'll see a big, I alluded to this, or maybe said it completely at our retreat, but you'll see a big overage in one of the line items in our facilities budget. And what we did is, as we were tracking this in January, February, March, April, we kind of identified some areas where we knew that surplus. We focused some of those on facilities improvements, safety and security, and, you know, things like paving, so. you'll
Things that
see-
needed to get done.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, I mean, that's the
one-
important thing here, you're not
no.
spending surplus, you're getting things done that
Yeah, and
need to
one-
be
And
done.
importantly, one-time cost, right, non-recurring costs. So we knew we had this non-recurring balance, so we applied it to something that was an unmet need. So anyway, I just want to be transparent about that, but at the end of the year, this is the balance I'm talking about. All right, I think that's a,
Yeah, I think not, I would encourage us to take a position, but since we don't know the final numbers, give, you know, the business manager and the superintendent discretion. But I would say it'd be good for us to weigh in on a split between prepay and return of funds to the town with the idea and hopefully the promise from the town that those funds will be put into the sped stabilization fund at next year's March town meeting. So we don't know the final number, but I would certainly be happy to propose a 50-50 split between prepay and, or if somebody has a different recommendation, it's kind of, John, if you have a recommendation more specific than that.
no, I really don't. I'll say this too. I mean, I think it's great to be able to prepay. It's kind of a nice tool that we can use, but it really doesn't help us long term.
That's
You
right.
know,
Right.
because it just causes a funding gap for
Yeah.
20.
Yeah.
So it solves a very short-term need, and so as we're looking at these unanticipated costs of special ed for next year already, we're gonna try to balance it with trying to make sure that we can address that long-term, right, and not just fill a short term. So I don't wanna get into the fiscal year 20 cycle with a bigger number than we need to. Anyway, so I think 50-50 is great.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
could I make a motion that the year-end
So we need to do.
unspent funds have be returned to the town with the expectation they'll be put into the sped stabilization fund in March and the other half to prepay.
But I'm not sure that we do that as a school committee. I don't think we have, I mean, we can, but it's not our,
That's fine.
it's really up to you.
Yeah, I mean, I would, either way. I don't think we need an actual vote, but I absolutely want to be on the same page.
Yeah, I think
It's
that-
It's bigger than me.
Yeah,
right?
well, this
So-
issue has been a subject of a lot of confusion, is maybe a good way
Oh, yeah.
to say it, and perhaps even,
Can it be a recommendation? Move
yeah,
that we
yeah,
recommend?
recommendation is maybe better, but this is, we got just drug over the coals in the last year about the use of sped stabilization, and this is actually the first dollars that are being committed that would serve to fund an unbudgeted need. So I think we should weigh in and say we believe as a school committee that's beneficial, but also hold the town to fulfill this commitment that they need to take the money that we return back and put it into sped stabilization until we have a better balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's maybe enough said. We don't need to take a vote.
Thank you. That concludes my report.
Okay. Anything else for us, Tim? No? David?
Basically, I just wanted to go over the end of the year report with you, but things are going well in the operating budget and grants and the revolving. They look pretty healthy at this point. What we do at this point is we start to close out purchase orders that aren't going to be used to order anything else, and that frees up some more money. That's why it's sort of volatile in the sense of how much are we going to have at the end of the year. And also, you can have other big bills coming in at the last moment, too. But we're on top of it. We're almost doing a projection almost every day. So, looking good. Looking good at this point.
So, back at the beginning of the year, we talked about a kind of short form budget that had maybe 24 lines in it.
We had that in the quarter.
Yeah. So,
What I could do is, you really won't be closing out until like July 14th.
right.
And then after that, I can start giving that
Okay.
report to, and hopefully by the end of
Okay.
July.
Okay.
I can have it ready.
Okay, because this is great, because it has all the details, but that short form
Yeah.
kind of
We'll-
gives kind of site-specific and department-specific.
We'll do the same thing.
So that would be
Yeah.
brilliant. Okay, thank you.
Going into next year, can we do that report more frequently? Like, not necessarily review at every meeting, but just have access to it?
Sure.
Yeah.
This or the short?
The short form?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a little more work, but this is a manual, but we can do that.
Whatever you can do that's easy. I'm
Yeah.
not,
You know, it's, again, we review it all the time, so we'll get into a cycle
Just-
where.
that's fine. Just press a button from your software. I don't want you to do any manual. So whatever you can get automatically.
No, we spend a lot of time bouncing back between the system and Excel, just because we can do so much more with the roll-up, so we'll be glad to provide that for you.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And ask questions, if you have any questions here, because it's, again, it looks like an EKG, right? It's up and down, but there's, as Dave, I asked 1,000 questions, so.
Yeah.
There's usually reasons if something looks
Okay.
kind of out of the ordinary, and it's a good check and balance, so feel free.
I had a question for Tim. Any pending grants? You had mentioned you were going to resubmit a grant for the marine, whatever it was. Any open grants that we won't have heard by the end of this year? Or do you have an update
The
on?
three entitlement grants that we received that I'm responsible for are Title I, Title II, and Title IV. And those are all, the dollar amounts associated with those aren't identified until after July 1st.
Okay, yeah.
Dr. Klingman and I have already been talking about how that money would be spent, because it's usually
Yeah.
not a lot different
Yeah.
one year to the next. And then the special ed grant, the 240-266 grant that Terry writes, is also flexible, but it's an entitlement grant, so
Mhm.
we will get it as long as we submit. The Economic Development Council grant is due in November,
Oh, okay,
so that
okay,
even if we submitted it today, they're not
Right.
going to act on it
okay.
until November.
I wasn't sure on the timing on that.
Right.
Great.
I looked at that after our last meeting, and I have the grant maybe halfway done.
Yeah, yeah.
It'll be done shortly.
Okay, great.
All right, Jess, do you have a student report for us?
Yes, we don't have too much as the end of the year is wrapping up, but Chandler School will be having their annual Flag Day ceremony tomorrow. The middle school awards day will be held tomorrow in the PAC at 6:30. The 6th and 8th graders will be going to Canopy Lake Park next week, and then the 6th and 7th graders will also be going on their annual beach trip. And in the high school student council just held class officer elections for the positions of president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. And final exams for the high school will be next Tuesday through Friday, and students will be released at 11:20 each day.
Cool. Can't do it.
Yes.
Far out.
Is anybody
Fun
going
part.
to the 8th grade promotion for
I
the school
am.
committee?
Yeah, so 8th grade promotion is the 21st. It's the night before the last day. So I know Dr. Antonucci and I are going to go.
Okay, good.
And I wasn't going to speak, but Blake Dalton just asked, say a few words. And like graduation, I'll keep it very brief. Maybe I'll just do 1 minute.
Yeah.
Just 1 minute this time. Thank you, Jess.
Just one more thing.
Yeah,
Can I go?
you can go.
So Tim beat us to the punch by thanking
Yeah.
us, but we wanted to thank him. And we actually have a little token of our appreciation. Well, let's come back in a second.
I realized I jumped the gun, I did.
Did you see the look on my face? I was like,
I thought you already did reports, I'm sorry.
we were
We
starting.
just have a card, a little Duxbury themed gift for Tim, but I just want to say, how do I say this in a classic way, but Tim has basically saved me from myself this year. And he's been, and I predicted it, and I knew it to be true, but it was such a bonus and a tremendous asset for me to have someone with Tim's expertise in seasoning and thoughtfulness by my side. It was, and we didn't really know each other that well, before we made the interim appointment, and it's for me it's been nothing short of exceptional. And I just think what he's done for Duxbury and the Duxbury Public Schools in one short year, that's remarkable, and it's a sign of just a talented veteran. So, and thank you. And this is from
My pleasure.
the school committee, and it's just, well, you can open it later, but it's a little
Want me to
Duxbury.
open it now?
You're welcome to.
Go for it.
It's up to
Just a
you.
little Duxbury themed houseware gift.
I'll read your notes later.
Supported local business also, which I think is
Good,
Great.
very good.
Great.
That's how we roll in Duxbury.
I'm not sure the wonderful job wrapping.
It's really rough. It's actually,
I can tell it's a cutting board.
it's a cutting board with the Powder Point Bridge.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
glass.
pretty cool.
Glass.
Excellent.
Hand painted.
I see the beach glass.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you,
Thanks, Dan. Our staff is taking Tim out to celebrate next Wednesday, so
Great.
we'll do a little more informal celebration next Wednesday, right? Yeah.
Behind the scenes.
So, thank you.
Is there a little kitchen on that RV? Can you use that cutting board on the road?
Say it again?
Can you use that cutting board on the road on the thing that you're renting, or is that gonna be at home?
Absolutely, I'll bring it in the camper.
Sweet.
What do I need to do?
I was gonna turn this on.
All right, well, I don't need it yet. My chair report, I had a couple of things, as I often do. I read 2 days last week in the Globe, ironically, back-to-back, there were articles about social media use in teens, which we often talk about, and they sort of jumped out at me. On June 7th, there was a report stating that 45% of teens admit being addicted to their phones, which it's probably higher, but 45% out of the box are like, absolutely, we're addicted. And this generation doesn't see the addiction as being problematic. What they found problematic was the bullying that occurs on social media. So they were savvy enough to realize that that's become the tool to make it more easy. And then on June 8th, there was an editorial about democracy in crisis and just how social media is going to take us down. And one of the stats that was listed in that was with the onset of new media use of smartphones, that coincided with a rise in teen suicide by almost a third. So clearly the two go hand in hand, and we all know. John's made it really clear we're working on social emotional learning and just wellness for our students, and it was just one more really sobering and jarring statistic. Which reminds me, can I
Yeah.
tag on that one? I
Sure.
met with Ann Ward and Karen Wong from Duxbury Facts last week because I'm not going to be able to attend their meeting next week. So I met with them last week. And they're supporting the police department initiative, which I'm
Don't let your
blanking on.
Friends don't let friends die.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I have a bunch of their little cards in the car, which I meant to bring in and give to all of you. So, and I think, they weren't able to come last week, but they would like to come at the beginning of next year because they are doing a lot of initiatives in this particular area in
Okay.
terms of mental health and suicide risk and all that. So I just want to put a plug in for
No, that's great. Yeah, I mean, I think
Duxbury
it's
Facts and the work
just
they're doing.
a good focus. Okay,
Okay,
good, because I
sorry.
spoke with Sue briefly today, and she wasn't sure when they were coming. The other jarring thing was, there was a lot on social media in Somerville. A parent went to kindergarten registration, and there was actually a lockdown poem on the wall to Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And it was just sort of, so it went around the internet, and it was just really sad that this is the world in which we live, that our kids have to twinkle, twinkle to lockdown, lockdown, go hide in the closet, and now let's have some fun. But that's where we're at. Yesterday was Community Reader Day at Chandler. Dr. Antonucci was there, Tim, the police chief was there. There were some community members from the senior center that read to kids. You read kindergarten, first grade, or second grade, and the kids are adorable, and it's always a really good time. I saw your selfie on
Oh, yeah.
Twitter, Mrs. Higgins' class. So cute. And then I read in the Globe this morning that the boys' tennis team beat Falmouth 5-0, so they are, I think, the last ones.
So sectional
Standing
tomorrow. And then state finals next Tuesday if they win tomorrow.
Awesome.
They're playing Situate, who they beat earlier in the year, but it will be very tough, I'm sure. But they have, they've done phenomenally well.
They have done.
Baseball's still in.
That's right, baseball won last
They
night.
play- we'll try to review it tonight. Tomorrow, Rockland,
Okay.
tomorrow.
Tom will be tweeting, I'm sure, so that's
Sounds
great.
good.
And then the last thing, a woman named Summer Schmaling, if I'm saying her name correctly, reached out to us about coming to introduce herself. She's running for the state rep for the 12th Plymouth District seat, which includes the first precinct 1 in Duxbury. And I'm pretty sure that's currently Tom Coulter's seat. So I think she is going to challenge him. I don't know what party she is, if she's Democrat or Republican. Oh, is he moving on? Was he appointed to another position? Okay.
Vacant position.
It's a vacant position. So she, I told her we're not going to have a meeting probably until September 5th, so she has asked, she put it in her calendar and has asked to come on September 5th, so we'll put her on our agenda for that night. And that's all I have.
Could I just pose a question, going back to talking about social media and social and emotional learning? Would it be possible when Lisa Dembowski comes to talk to us about guidance, could she give us a description of the various ways in which, if students become concerned about a fellow student, how can they express their concern in a way that is useful, constructive? And are there kind of a range of age-appropriate methods? I know in my kids' elementary school, we had worry boxes so that children could write their worry and put it in a little box. And but obviously for older children, older students, it's a different method. But it would be useful to understand that.
Did we institute a hotline this year, or are we going
Well, so
to?
that's the.
Sort of a tip, anonymous
no,
tip?
It'll be for
Next.
the timing of it, just didn't work out for.
Okay.
It just would have been weird to kind of roll it out so late, but it'll be for next year.
Next year.
That's a tip off. That can be for anything, I guess.
So a student could call that if they were concerned about another student for any reason?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And could a parent call about either their own child or another student?
It's gonna, the one, what we're referring to is kind of an anonymous tip line.
Right,
And the answer is
okay.
yes, I mean, it'll be available to the entire community for
Okay.
any kind of issue.
Great,
We'll have to triage it, but.
Sure.
Yeah.
okay,
We just need to give as many different
yeah,
vehicles as possible.
yeah.
Who will triage that? Because it's going to be some personal information.
Yeah, we haven't fully figured it out, though. It'll be, a combination of administration and the police department. Well,
Yeah.
for the safety things.
Right, okay. Anyone else? All right. Discussion items, policy reviews. We're going to look at policy JJIC, student participation in athletics, as it pertains to homeschooled students.
Yeah, so Tim, I'm going to turn over to you.
Sure.
Do you wanna,
So this particular policy has, it's my understanding, and some of you who have history on the board may have enough history to know that this has come before you before, or begun before this group before. It's also my understanding that it was roundly or soundly defeated for any sort of change. However, we thought we'd try again. JJIC, the policy itself is as simple as that first two sentences. That's how it currently reads. Only enrolled students of Duxbury High School may participate in the athletic program. These students must meet all Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association of Duxbury High School requirements prior to participation on any team. Since, I think the last time this was brought to the Duxbury School Committee, the MIAA has made a modification of its own to their policies and procedures in that they are encouraging and or supporting the inclusion of homeschool students to participate as long as they meet the exact same criteria that the regularly enrolled students would meet, from anything from a medical, a physical test, to passing grades, to the other
Fees.
residency in the town and so forth. So everything that's in italics there, I provided to you, and that's directly from the MIAA handbook. Further down, I provided a sample policy from Hingham, and then sample B I just put together. It's a little more explicit. It provides more guidance. Hingham's, and I think the purpose of policy, and quite frankly, for the most part, is to be a little more generic because it provides for a little more flexibility. But I did provide an alternative with sample B, where the exact criteria for participating for homeschool students would be that the educational plan for the homeschool student has been approved by the superintendent, that the principal has determined the appropriate high school level placement, and chronological age and educational plan, that the student resides in the town, that the principal is satisfied with the MIAA expectations as well as the high school expectations. So it does articulate some criteria that would allow people to, if there's a request, then as long as you do this, then there's a yes. Just some additional information. I have been assigned with the responsibility for monitoring homeschool students in the district for this current school year. And right now, we only have one high school age student. In the fall, I am aware that we will have two, the existing one plus another who has already submitted some paperwork. So I provide those numbers simply because I don't believe we're going to be talking about 25 kids on a yearly basis asking to be part of our interscholastic teams. They also would have to go through the entire tryout process like other students. They may or may not make the team, but they would be given the opportunity to try out. So right now we do have one active request to participate in the girls volleyball team for next year. I met with this family back in the fall when we reviewed their homeschool plans. They have 3 children, school age, and at that time they mentioned that this is something that they might like their daughter to do when she reaches the freshman level. Again, she would need to make the team in order to participate. But our policy, clearly as it is stated now, only enrolled students at Duxbury High School. And we're looking to, or recommending that there's a modification to that, either through sample A or sample B at the bottom, whichever, or a modified version of those.
This precedes me. Why was the decision made not to?
I don't remember.
I think the argument is because they're not in the system, the discipline, like how do we know? You know, I think it's sort of just that unknown. It's not fair to the kids who are here. It's just sort of been nothing really concrete, I think.
I'm not sure the administration supported it either.
Yeah.
It's,
I would, I don't know, Shannon, you want to go?
No, I mean, I think if all the same requirements, including, you know, discipline to the extent we have those records, they're paying the fees, they're trying out, I think it's fair. They're a member of the community and.
Yeah, and for me, and it preceded my involvement with the school committee, but to me, this is, I mean, we want to enrich all of the school-age residents of Duxbury's experiences, and I think homeschooling, they're lacking this ability to interact with the kids in the public schools. So I think it's, I like the Hingham policy. It gives administration flexibility. We could be more specific if the school committee chose, but I'd advocate that this is a good thing for all of our students that participate in athletics. I guess a question I would just have, Tim, has there been a request? I mean, we have outstanding other extracurriculars. Has this been limited to sports? Like I could imagine a homeschool student would like to participate in our music program or what have you.
I think the Hingham one said extracurricular too. I think that was included.
'Cause I think we want to afford, because sometimes homeschool students go back and forth. I mean,
Exactly.
they might be in the schools, they
In
might be
there.
out, and they, you know, so.
Is-
I think-
I would love to extend it to extracurriculars.
Yeah.
Any impact on like insurance? Is there any kind of
We can check. I
just clarification of the language, make sure the language would cover them?
Yeah, I mean,
In my one-year tenure here, the family that we're talking about who's asking for the volleyball did request some involvement in music as well as art during the course of the school year. And when you sit at the table and you look at the rotating schedule and the drop schedule, and it just didn't work out for them. But I have every confidence that they will try to incorporate that again next year.
I think that just triggered something, memory for me. I don't think I was a member. I think maybe I was in the audience when the previous conversation was had. And I think it was a little bit of, well, if you're participating in all these things, why don't you just come to school? I think that was a little bit of it as well. But I don't know, if John, if you've heard anything else about
No,
why the
I
other
really haven't.
administration didn't.
No, I haven't, and I would just say personally, I can't find a reason why we would do this,
Yeah,
personally.
yeah,
Right? It's,
yeah.
they're members of the community, and there'll be some issues, right, scheduling, but the things that we would
Yeah.
deal, we can deal with.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that,
Yeah.
I don't think that argument, whoever brought
No,
that up,
no,
holds any
no, I
water,
agree.
because it's extracurricular, it's outside curriculum. That's the whole point.
Right.
So if they're, I
Like-
agree, I mean, if they're members of the community and they meet all the other requirements, I think it's good. I
Yeah,
think it
like-
enriches the whole community.
But I think music and art are part of the curriculum, so that's the tricky thing there.
Well, yeah, they're both.
right,
They're
so-
courses as well.
And then
as
there's the
extra.
afters, yeah, so just
So
have
it'd
to be
have to be
clear there. It had to be the
extracurricular.
extracurricular part of it.
Right.
And they're all fee-based, so they would pay the fee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any co-curricular from middle
Alright.
school on up has a fee.
From, I think it's, Good.
I'm just looking at the human policy, it does say curricular, extracurricular, and athletic.
so what does all curricular mean then?
It's classes.
Hmm?
Classes.
Classes.
I don't
Yeah, and that
know.
would
So
be
then
like
they can
student
pick and
government.
choose? I mean,
Yeah,
that's
we
where I
can't.
Yeah,
have,
that would,
I think it would have to be
I would
extracurricular.
Extracurricular and
Academics.
sports.
Probably not, yeah.
Yeah,
I would-
curricular to me means
Extracurricular, I
something
mean,
to
for our
do with the
purposes.
curriculum. I'm
Yeah,
not so sure
right.
that would be cool,
Then
but.
they're
Just
picking and
come on
choosing, and
and
why
Yeah,
can't
totally,
everybody
right,
else?
yeah. I don't like the way I'm
I
getting
think
taught
to step
math
in
at
the right
all. I
direction,
wanna
I'd
like,
love
Yeah.
to have some flexibility around curricular options also. If you have a student who's, a phenomenal math student, and we have a math class that would really challenge that child to come in for that one period a day for mathematics, or some other similar, maybe wants to be engaged in group discussion around novels and wants to come to a one English class. Maybe there's a modified version of the curricular piece. It doesn't have to be all of it. If it's all of it, you might as well just be enrolled, as you said. But on a limited basis, some a curricular offering.
It's ironic, because I'd imagine that if you're homeschooling a kid, you don't want to really force your way into the
Right.
curriculum. They're choosing to
Well,
step up for a
and I know
reason.
we
But
have
if
minimal
this
high
is-
schoolers right now, but how many do we have coming up through the system? Because I hear a lot of kids in the younger ages are homeschooled.
We have
I
nine,
think.
we have 9 total
In the
homeschool students
district.
this year in this district.
In the district.
Right.
And some of the younger kids, we have author visits here. They might want to take part in something like that.
Just, for me, it just, I'm open and willing, I think also just in terms of administrative complexity and how that's going to be managed and how you communicate with all these families and,
Does curricular, that's a good point, because my question would be like, if they want to be involved in something that challenges them, let's say like your math example, does that assume that they would be graded by okay, so like to me, I mean, I've never taught at the K-12 level, but you have. I mean, would there be any complexity for the teacher because that teacher may not have had experience, or the teachers may not have had experience with that child, that learner, in other classes? Like, there's not a lot of historical data and stuff to
I don't
be
think
able to.
I don't think it will be a lot different
not
than
relevant?
a child moving into the district
Yeah.
from another town,
Yeah.
a new entity. You do some pre-assessment, you get a sense of the child's skills,
Mhm.
and guidance wouldn't place. A parent may ask to take a particular course, AP Physics, for example, but if the child doesn't have the prerequisite skills to do so, guidance will determine that and just not allow it.
And what if we're right on the cusp of like of a hefty student to teacher ratio? What would happen
Good,
there?
very good point. That might be something that we incorporate into the language that says space available
Yeah.
as determined by whomever, administration.
could we start with the extracurricular and athletics and see how it goes and then add
Yeah.
curricular and just kind of
That's
baby
cool.
step it a little bit?
Yes, I think that's
It just seems like all of a sudden we're going from this to this.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think either way, it's going to be a blip on our radar.
Okay.
right?
I agree.
That could be totally
But we
wrong,
could
I think
revisit in a
it's-
year
yeah.
and see if there are any requests for,
Yeah. Yeah.
In a former community where I worked, not my most recent, but 2 or 3 ago now, we had 2 professional skaters, and their practices were from noon until like 4, but they came to school in the morning. So they had half of a homeschool program and half of a public school program, and that flexibility was really nice. You know, you may find yourself in a situation like that, where a child is part of a drama production in Boston, and they only spend half a day in school. So the family has to be responsible for the other half. But you're not there yet. I
Right.
don't know of any requests that were a situation that's similar. So I can certainly modify the Hingham to take out the word curricular. And because it's volleyball, that's the request, and because volleyball is a fall sport, and because you don't meet again until after volleyball will have already started, would you consider waiving policy and perhaps voting this evening?
That we
This one.
approve Hingham JJIC minus the word curricular?
Yes and no, because I can see what you're saying, and in theory, yes, absolutely. There's no reason why, in my view, she shouldn't have an opportunity to join the volleyball team. But I'm not that fond of sample A. I think, and I would like to see a curricular option for just the reasons that you've been explaining, the examples, that there may be students who have other commitments or but what I think is important to me is that the education plan for the student is approved by the district.
It has to be approved by the district just for them to homeschool.
Right.
Right.
Under the
That's the law.
state.
That's
it has
the
to.
law, yeah.
Okay,
So
okay.
it's just almost kind of redundant, but
Right,
it has to
okay,
happen, yeah.
okay.
Let me add a wrinkle, just to your point.
Sure.
So if this policy is just about participation in athletics, right? And we vote, let's
Yeah.
just say extracurricular and athletics. Thinking out loud here. But our policy then is probably silent on anything
right.
else. And we might just be able to deal with it as it comes.
Right.
Without violating.
Case
right?
by case.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, because we don't have a policy that prohibits, like, our policy right now prohibited participation in
Right,
athletics.
okay.
Since we don't have that for curricular activities, it might be that we address the athletics here in extracurricular,
Okay.
and then if we have a curricular option, we just address it.
Yeah, I would
So
think that would be
You know
up
what I mean?
to
It's
you
not-
on an
it's not-
individual
It's not
basis.
prohibited.
Right,
Okay.
as long as it meets
Right.
all mass
Absolutely.
laws.
I think so, I'm trying, it's like a,
Makes sense.
So if a student showed up like the skaters and said, we'd like to come
Yeah.
in the morning, you could accommodate that without a policy
we
review?
would certainly want to accommodate them, I think
Sure.
we can, without
Right, okay.
violating any
Okay.
district policy.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
kinda came
yeah,
to me,
yeah.
Yeah, I would advocate voting for the extracurricular and sports tonight. So this child could, because tryouts are probably in August or something.
Right.
Julia, you also said you didn't like
Well, it was just because it was, because I misunderstood the role of the educational plan. That I felt that if students were, homeschooled students were trying to kind of match or mesh what they're doing at home with what they're doing in school, that I wanted the school district to be involved in helping to understand which courses would be best. So it had more to do with the curricular side than the athletics.
If you're gonna go with policy, so which one are we gonna go with, A or B?
Well, if we're just doing extracurricular
A and take
athletic.
out curricular?
Yeah.
I like,
Yeah.
I think A gives the flexibility
Yeah,
because it's so small numbers of people
yeah,
that we don't need to impose a whole checklist of,
sure.
you need to do A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
That's my thought. Okay.
All right, we'll vote after. Under action items, okay.
Okay.
Okay, so next is policies pertaining to school-sponsored foreign travel.
Okay, so this is something that you are, well, you're familiar with the issues here. And and this is something we've looked at a couple times this year. But the big picture is that there are several, how many? 2 or 3 different policies here, 2, I guess, that prohibit school sanctions international travel. Right, so I figured tell me how much information you want, but, so right now, we are running several non-school sanctioned trips a year with Duxbury staff and Duxbury students getting picked up at Duxbury High School. So, yet we have no control over those trips because they're not school committee approved. Now, your school committee policies require the approval of overnight trips. Okay? So what I'm proposing is that we eliminate the prohibition of, how do I say that, right? We're allowing school sanctioned travel. And I'll be perfectly honest, this is about control, you know? So right now, I feel like we don't have control over the trip itinerary, our student conduct, staff conduct on those trips. It's this gray area, real nebulous, of both our liability and also our ability to impose rules and regulations on this travel. And I'm really stuck in between. And we've had several instances where I wish I had more, as an administration, more control over it. So I think these trips are incredible experiences for the kids. I think they're incredible experiences for the staff. I think it's really important. It's become, international travel has become a really important part of 21st century learning, and then we should promote it. And so if we eliminate the restriction, we can impose some controls. It's as simple as faculty to student ratio. As simple as you need to follow all the rules of the Duxbury Public Schools no matter where you are, those types of things. So, if we agree to this, if we do make the change, I'll be working with Diane McKeevan, the world language supervisor, and Jim Donovan on basically a travel handbook. I have some models from other districts, and that'll be something sort of a procedural thing that we can deal with. But right now we're stuck, and so there's several policies here that mention it. So here's one section where it talks about that the school committee has no responsibility over this, the travel. And then as I'm moving down, we can come back to this. As I'm moving down, it mentions it again that we don't endorse it. So the revision, if we did it, it's again under the advertising policy. So if we think this is a good idea, we would have to modify these policies by just eliminating these yellow sections, if that makes sense. So I'll answer any questions you have.
So, one question that just occurred to me, can you go back up to the,
Which one?
oh, no, this one,
Sorry,
that one.
yeah,
Okay. So I think, so that's the key, for me, is the teachers and other school staff sometimes privately conduct educational tour trips. So that, I get. As long as we're not writing it expansively enough to cover other things, like if students are going out on their own and finding educational trips not related to any school staff, and that shouldn't be covered. So, for example, I did Earth Watch when I was in high school.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I just think we have to be aware that that's
yeah.
the hook. I've done a little bit more due diligence, and I'm comfortable
Yeah, good.
with moving forward.
The revision would be, this would just disappear, right? And so, like, this section would.
Because I think what you're suggesting is to just strike all non-school
Yeah,
sponsored
I don't even know what I
travel.
would do with it. Like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
want
you
to
don't
control
wanna-
what's happening
any
in
of
people's
it.
living rooms, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. And that
So-
was my.
But my question was, would you get into a situation where teachers or other staff could still do non-sponsored trips and
And we wouldn't
Tim and I
know.
talked about this yesterday.
And we wouldn't know.
they'd be doing an end run around the
You know,
policy?
But the parents would have
absolute clarity on.
I mean, maybe, I mean, it would be, I don't know, yes, I guess.
So you can't actually forbid them from,
I don't know
You
how I
can't-
would.
Yeah, you can't forbid them from what they do on their private
right,
time.
yeah.
Well, the trips we're talking about now are, I don't want to overstate this because the teachers are very professional about this, but to use this term, they're kind of recruiting
Sure.
students in school. Their meetings are being held, they're picking them up.
Yeah.
So if they, I don't know, if they somehow secretly take 5 kids, so I don't know that they would do that.
Right.
I still think there's an argument to be made that they are, if something happened on one of those trips, that they might be in violation of the school committee policy and they might be disciplinary
Well,
consequences.
Well, I would say they
That's
already
what I was-
violated. Teachers and other school staff are prohibited from soliciting students for privately run trips through the school system.
Well, that's why I didn't want to
How else are they
overstate that.
soliciting
Yeah,
them?
yeah.
But they've already violated, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong, maybe
And
they
there
waited
are
until after
there are
school.
codes of conduct for how the teachers are supposed to interact with students inside or outside of school.
Yes, that's what I mean. So if
That's-
something happened that we found out about after the
Right.
fact, and we found out there was a violation of something,
Right.
we.
Inside or
feel-
outside of school.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
That's, yes.
But basically, if a teacher decided to do a non-school sponsored trip, there would be no school committee approval because it would be an overnight trip that we never knew about.
Right.
So therefore, okay, that
Yeah.
makes it much more
Yeah.
obvious that it's completely outside of what our normal practice would be.
Yeah.
I would say, I don't think that's gonna happen.
No,
And
but
certainly not on a large
just-
scale, but it's, I asked, Tim and I talked about this yesterday, because I'm like, oh, how are we gonna, how do you
It could
address that?
happen.
You can't really, you know?
Okay.
So I want to say this too, is that I've had many conversations about this topic internally, teachers and administrators, and I actually think most teachers are going to appreciate
Mm,
having the backing of the school committee. Bear in mind, you're going to have to approve
yeah.
any trip.
Right.
And so I think they are hungry for it, I'll
Good.
say. I'm generalizing a little bit. I haven't talked to every single person
Mhm.
involved, but a couple, Sue Sullivan in particular, who's done a lot of some travel. And I actually offered to come tonight, and I said, I don't think I need you, but thank you. She's very supportive of it.
Yeah. Okay, great.
I think it's time, myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Shannon, you said you feel good about it.
I'm okay, yep.
Okay, good. That's great.
We need the lawyer to weigh
Exactly, we need our lawyer.
in. It's important.
I'm not licensed in Massachusetts.
So when we do the revision, you'd be striking out this
Great.
big yellow section in that policy, this yellow section in this policy, and then, I don't know why it's everywhere. Someone was really opposed to it. And
Well,
then,
yeah.
And then this section.
So some of the due diligence, this was actually, it was not in our policies apparently 8 or 9 years ago. It was put in.
It was put in.
It was
Oh,
put
No,
in.
it was, so
Yeah, by the
yeah,
Yes.
last
was.
administration.
right, no,
Yeah.
no, that's, yes, you're right.
So it wasn't the policy before that.
Yeah. It's a little, I would just say it's a little unusual to have it as a policy, a school
Yeah.
policy. But
Okay.
everybody has their reasons, so I don't, not a judgment.
No, no,
Hmm.
no.
Okay.
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 You good on that?
Yes.
Okay.
I know, right.
Now it is time for the superintendent's evaluation. Da, 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 da.
Right, that's what-
Can't believe it's been a year, like you said with Tim. This year flew,
Yes, it's a,
especially, I think, I don't know.
well, it's like they say when you're raising kids, the days are long, but the
years fly
go
by.
fast or
Yeah.
something.
Well, and I think the older we get, the faster it goes. I'll speak for myself there,
There
but
you go.
this year definitely flew. So I'm just going to read a little narrative that I put together, and then I'll go over the compilation, the summative of John's evaluation, and then I'd like to open it up, whoever would like to speak and talk about their individual evaluation if you want, and if you don't want to, that's fine as well. So Dr. Antonucci, see, I'm going to have to say that a bunch of times, and I'm going to have to.
Sounds good.
John was chosen as our new superintendent by the Duxbury School Committee last year for both his prior experience as a superintendent and his business acumen. The school committee felt it imperative to hire someone with acute experience in budgeting, as we are facing budget constraints at a time when we would like to grow the district and continue to offer our students the best possible education. John came in at a time of great change in the Duxbury Public Schools. During his inaugural year, he worked with an interim assistant superintendent, an interim high school principal, an interim assistant high school principal, and an outgoing middle school principal. John has spent the year making thoughtful hiring decisions and has put together a talented administrative team. We welcomed Jim Donovan as permanent DHS principal, Sarah McGuire as DMS principal, and Dr. Danielle Klingeman as assistant superintendent. During convocation last August, my favorite Dr. Antonucci quote was, "Find a way to say yes." John is clearly student-centered, and it is obvious to me that John's ideal is that all efforts are for student success and well-being. Dr. Antonucci's budgeting skills, hang on, lost my page, were put to the test directly out of the gate. He revamped the entire budget process, creating a transparent budget document, conducting a budget tour with the school and town stakeholders, and creating and presenting on behalf of the Duxbury Public Schools at town meeting. John took this year to conduct a technology review, not only as to what device type we are using, but to also take a hard look at how our students are utilizing technology and if teachers are using devices to enhance learning and higher order thinking. Our one-to-one initiative is firmly in place, and we will continue to move forward in alignment with the Massachusetts standards. Dr. Antonucci has had a successful first year as our superintendent, and we very much look forward to his expertise and experience in the coming years. Years, plural, many years. So the summative evaluation for Dr. Antonucci, his student learning goal pertaining to social emotional learning has been met. His professional practice goal of developing and implementing a year one entry plan was met. His district improvement goal, budget development and digital learning was met. And for performance ratings, Standard 1 instructional leadership was proficient. Standard 2 management and operations, drum roll, exemplary. Standard 3 family and community engagement, proficient. And Standard 4 professional culture, proficient. So, and I'd like to say last year I was vice chair. John was so great about communicating all the time. This year I'm working more closely, and you make it very easy and transparent, and it's really, I mean, we're a great board anyways, but it's really wonderful working with you and all the people that you brought in. Tim was a home run, and we've gotten nothing but great feedback, so thank you very much. Does anybody want to top that? No. Does anybody want to add per their individual input, or are we good with the summative?
But
No, go
let
ahead.
someone else go
you
first. I found two things related to thinking about a performance assessment that was very helpful. One is the entry plan, and I followed up with you. I thought that was outstanding, because when someone is new, school district, Jim Donovan said, this district has been going on since 1926, so it's an organization that there's a lot of culture, history, call it inertia, right? Very hard to change course. When you come in from the outside, you have a really unique perspective, and I thought that entry plan, and I suggested that that actually be kind of an end-of-year communication broadly to the community, because I think there were so many great insights. So I found that very helpful. But second, I also found your self-assessment to be quite helpful, thinking about how you think about the job that you were able to do in the areas in which I think you had significant progress and still challenges remaining. I think, and I also really appreciated the first thing you said, which is, and you said three things, and I remember him, and I've spoken to people about him. I said, well, there are three things that he said that I think, are going to serve the district well in the future. The first is learn how to say yes. The second is, take your profession but not yourself too seriously. And I can't remember the third right now. But I think the learning how to say yes is so critically important. I've had several examples from parents over the course of the school year that I think in the past it would have been very easy to say no, whatever the circumstances were, and there was concern about precedent and what the impact would be if these individual cases were dealt with en masse, and that's really never the case, is it? I mean, it's so often you just have individual cases and you try and do the best you can for those students and families. I think the development of the team, it's sort of by the hands you were dealt. You had to really work at a high level. You had to bring in an assistant superintendent, building principal in the high school, building principal in the middle school. I'm looking forward to seeing what you do throughout the organization, because that was, that's I think how you can have a real lasting impact in the district is to really build people that have similar outlook about education, putting the students first, supporting faculty. So I just wanted to say the budgeting aspect of it, I think, was necessary to establish the foundation of clarity, transparency, integrity of our numbers. And I think it's going to serve us very well going forward. It wasn't easy, certainly, this past year, but I think we have a really good start. So, I don't know who was copying who, but my personal summary is pretty much squared with the averages of everyone else. But I just wanted to say thank you for coming to the district. You wanted a challenge. I think we're a challenge. And I'm looking forward to where we're going to go from here. So.
My wife will never let me say that. By the way, Peter, the third thing was, what have you done for kids today?
There it is. Right. That should have been
Look,
first,
I'm not
actually.
gonna lie. I have a reputation as a budget guy, and it's fine, and I hope it's, deserved, but.
Yeah, you told the story about your father.
Going up the fun part of the job, and I think in my career and here, where it's definitely a kid-focused thing, and so that budget's over here, it's a technical task,
Well, you told a great story about your father. Like the first 5 years you were in the job at Westwood, every day he said, "What did you do for kids today?" So yeah, that's really should have been the first thing I said. But I think the saying yes is also so in alignment with that. But anyhow, you're right. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
What have you done for kids today? So.
I was just going to say how much I appreciated your engagement with the whole process of self-evaluation and the entry plan. Sometimes doing a performance evaluation, particularly when it takes place in public, can be a bit like pulling teeth, and it was exactly the opposite. So I think it really indicates how, or it's an example of a willingness to respect the role of school committee and to engage in a kind of collaborative effort to get the best out of whatever the process is that we're engaged in. So I really appreciate that.
I really don't like it, but I'm glad.
I know you don't like it. Nobody
No
likes
one
it.
does. It's like, really?
No.
Who wants to get evaluated in public?
Exactly.
But I appreciate that. I will say this about the process, and I never give credit to the state, but the educator evaluation system and the rubric that I showed you,
Yeah.
it's really helpful,
Yeah.
actually. And so the ability to kind of say, oh, this is what I'm kind of supposed to do, and how'd you stack up is helpful. So it makes the process actually much easier than it's ever been for me, at least, well, when you and I started, Tim, a while back, it was sort of not Duxbury, I mean in our
Yeah.
career,
Yeah.
but it was kind of free for all.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Julie.
Right?
Thank you.
You're entirely welcome. All right, action items. First vote is to revise policies JJIC, which we just talked about, the athletics, KHA, KHB, which is public solicitations and advertising in school, and then IJOA, the field trips. So we're gonna vote them all at once?
So do we vote to revise and then we approve them later? Is that, they come back with the revisions, or do we?
I thought we
How does
already
that work?
revised the advertising.
Well, so here's the thing with advertising. We created a new advertising policy that's separate. It's really, these are convoluted. We need to,
So we're
Or
still,
you
we're
can do
just
more work
voting
on
to
them.
revise them.
but right now, we have this new advertising policy, but these they were so intertwined, the R versions. And
Right.
so we did some advertising work
Right.
already, but right now, these existing policies, the ones that I listed here, we just need to strike
Okay.
those, travel them.
But the JJIC is the homeschool, so that's the one where we agreed to the Hingham language minus the curricular.
Exactly.
And then the KHA, KHB, and IJOA are where we strike the language.
Right.
So they're two. I
So
think we
it's
have to
two
do
different votes,
two-
I think.
Yeah, exactly.
One's to approve the policy and one's to approve a revision.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so can I have a motion to approve policy JJIC?
So I move that we approve a Duxbury version of the Hingham's sports and extracurricular policy applying to homeschool students minus the curricular portion of it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then I guess we will, can I have a motion to revise policies KHA, KHB, and IJOA?
I move,
Go ahead.
I move that we revise those policies to delete references to prohibition to those different trips that are prohibited in those policies.
We could say as maybe highlighted in.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
in
good.
yellow
Okay.
and, in the
Strike
in the
that.
supporting material, something like that, just so they're clear.
Okay, so I move that we revise those policies to delete the highlighted sections as shown in the materials.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Painful. Sorry. Told you not to let me talk tonight.
Next, we need to vote to ratify the local 1700 AFSCME and AFL-CIO Council 93 custodial union memorandum of agreement.
Yeah, so what this is the ratification of recently negotiated
Right.
collective bargaining agreement with our custodian, ASME, AFL-CIO. So
Okay.
you have the materials and I recommend approval.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I move to ratify Local 1700 AFSME, AFL-CIO Council 93 Custodial Union Memorandum of Agreement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and we need a vote to ratify, excuse me, the Educator Evaluation Memorandum of Understanding with the DTA in regards to teacher surveys. Any discussion? Can we have a motion?
I move to ratify Educator Evaluation Memorandum of Understanding with the DTA regarding teacher surveys.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is it Groundhog Day?
I'm big on the seconding today.
I like that. Maybe a new name. All right, we need a vote to appoint Superintendent Antonucci as the Pilgrim Area Collaborative Representative on the governing board of the Southeast Collaborative Regional Organization.
So here's the thing, I don't really know what this is, okay, but.
But you're jumping in.
But there's something called, it's new to me, Southeast Collaborative Regional Organization, basically it's representatives from several area collaboratives in this area get together to, you know.
This is the thing in Pembroke, right?
That's a Pilgrim Area Collaborative. I think these meetings are somewhere else, but
Oh, okay.
each collaborative sends a representative to
the
this
Southeast
more
region.
regional council. And so they asked, she asked me if I was willing to do it. I'm happy to do it. It's a way for me actually to get a little more integrated into the
Great.
South Shore.
Yes.
But she said that she wanted us to approve my appointment.
Okay.
Okay.
Happy to do it.
So, sorry, I've lost track. Do we have a motion? No, we don't have a motion yet.
No, we don't.
So moved.
Second.
Streak is broken.
Broke the
sorry.
streak. All in favor? Aye. All right, Matt, get ready. We are, sorry. We need a motion to approve the high school trip to Washington DC. And I believe that's in October, and that is to the Holocaust Museum.
Yeah, no, November action, November
November.
7th to 10th. Actually, we just mentioned your name. This is Susan
Yep.
Sullivan. She's taken this trip before, and I guess it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And she's provided some details. I spoke with her about it in person. I certainly recommend approval.
Move to approve the high school trip to Washington, D.C.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Correspondence, other comments, issues for consideration at our September meeting?
We should still talk about maybe
Yeah.
doing an August meeting.
Doing-
Maybe Kelly and I can look at some dates and get something out.
Like right when school starts, or,
Yeah.
because they start on a Wednesday, right? Or the teachers?
Even if we-
What's
yeah,
the
we'll
cal-
have to look at
okay.
the calendar. I'm sorry, I couldn't do that for tonight.
I support that fully.
For August?
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think there'd be value, and I'm not one for having meetings, so as I say that, don't hold me to this in the future, but you're gonna kick off the strategic planning
Yeah.
work,
Yeah.
and I think there's real value in just having some quiet time, if you will, before the year gets rolling, just to do that. And so if we want to look at the calendar, Kelly and I will get some dates out.
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
the other thing that might need to happen is to identify 2 school committee members who are going to work with you on your performance planning for next school year. So,
What do you mean?
well, you and I met with Dr. Antonucci when you presented your plan.
Yeah, goals.
Yeah, your set of goals. So there's a kind of pre-meeting
Okay.
with 2 members of school committee in which Dr. Antonucci presents his goals. There's some discussion, and then you come to the whole.
Yeah.
So it was Peter and me last year. If other people would like to do that, I mean, kind of just decide who.
I welcome it, but that probably won't be till September at this point, just 'cause
Okay.
we're gonna meet with our, I really need to work with the administrative team. to
Right,
kind of
okay.
work. We meet sometime in August for a
Okay.
retreat.
Okay. Okay. Great.
Is that for his evaluation goals?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a planning statement.
Yep.
That.
Didn't even get a night off. Didn't even get one night off.
Sorry.
Okay.
It was valuable, actually, I thought the adventure, I thought the process was great, and that was helpful to kind of hash some stuff out.
Yeah, I thought so. And, but I'm happy to, I don't need to do it, I don't want to be one of the people every year, but I thought it was useful.
Mhm.
And, yeah, so. Other members of the committee could volunteer.
Okay. We can decide. I'll
It can
get
be on the
something out.
agenda for the August meeting.
Exactly. Yeah, we can talk about it and then
Yeah.
put it out there. But I learned something new because I didn't know that.
Other business?
Yeah.
Are we there?
Yes. What you got?
I was very appreciative of John Q. Adams' high-level overview. I thought it was constructive. I'm looking forward to the meeting on the 18th. He asked the right questions on the following pages. Can we have a collaborative, I'm paraphrasing here, but a collaborative process to discuss revenue forecast? And should we think about prioritizing our spending differently? Those are the 2 right questions. I mean, I think at the heart of it. The third, I would say, is I want to have visibility on numbers. I don't ever want to attend a meeting where we're not able to agree on basic numbers. I mean, how can we budget if we don't have agreement on numbers? So I think if we could get those 3 things out of that, I like the presentation. I think those are the right questions. And the third thing is the town finance director and or town manager should prepare a consistent set of historical numbers and underlying projections that we all agree are the real numbers that we're looking at, so we don't get into the discussion that we did at nauseam this past year of whose numbers were whose and where'd they come from, and I didn't know, I mean, we heard a lot of that about, well, I don't know where you got those numbers from. So anyhow, I'm excited about next week. Are all of us going to be able to attend? We're all planning.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
And it's at the town hall, right in the selectmen's meeting room.
Which will be cozy.
I'll confirm that.
Can you confirm that?
Yeah, they have to post by tomorrow if it's not there.
If
Yeah,
they
so
change it.
I did talk to Randy today, he's in charge of the posting, so he's.
Well aware of that.
Yeah.
But it's just going to be,
I mean, if we could encourage
It's
them
gonna
to
be
do it at
It
the
is very
senior
tight.
center and like do it around tables so we can see each other, otherwise there's gonna be, we're gonna be
thought it
staring
was
at the
at the
back.
senior
I
center.
have asked that question,
Yeah.
actually, about the seating arrangements, because I said that we did not want to be
In the
in
audience.
the audience.
Right.
So it was a joint meeting, I can only tell you that the response I got was positive and that they're hoping to
Great.
Configure.
reconfigure the tables, yeah.
Great, super.
I just think it'll be if public attends. I know some people from the public are attending, so then,
There's no place for them to sit.
yeah, the
If
seating
they-
might be a little
If they bring the
awkward.
board down and make a square in the middle, then there's no seat
But
for.
what they,
Right.
we did, and they didn't do it this year, but a couple of years ago, we had this joint meeting in the senior center where
Yeah.
there was a
Right.
U-shaped table and there
Yeah.
was still audience.
Yeah.
But I didn't like the one with the finance committee where we were all
In
in
the
the audience and
audience,
they were
exactly.
sitting,
No.
you know, we couldn't,
And there's some
Yeah.
issue with
Well, that wasn't really a joint.
overhead projector system in.
I have a feeling a lot of people are gonna wanna go.
Well, it does.
you do?
I think so.
I've gotten a few,
What'd you say?
I think a lot of people, I think a lot of the
Inquiries.
public is gonna go.
I've had
So I don't know if that room's
my
gonna
guess is
work.
20 or less.
I
You
said
think?
20 people who didn't see that Monday were very interested.
Oh,
Great.
Yeah.
it is a lot for that room.
No, we're just saying it's a lot,
But-
it's a lot of interest.
Sure.
Especially on
Right.
June 18th, you know, it's
Right.
like finally nice, it's light out at
And
night.
people are gonna commit to going at 7 o'clock.
Great.
Good.
Any other new business? No? Public comment? Matt, last chance? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Very good.
Yeah?
Yeah, well done.
No, I didn't know about that. That's what I said. I didn't know that you were doing that.
Yeah, so it's, if you look at, there's a policy document, then there's a process document.